Okay, so we're going to be going over the 7 functional movement strain assessment tests. The first one we have is a deep squat, and it's going to be a deep squat. It is what it is. So the upper torso is going to be parallel with the tibia, or toward vertical. Femur below horizontal, and then knees are aligned over feet. And then dowel, or the stick, whatever we're using for this, is going to be aligned with the feet over. The only thing that we didn't do in this test is get an actual like 2x4 and put it on our heels just because we didn't have that with us at the time. But the whole point of this is to come down in a clean motion and come back up. Okay, we don't want to be wobbly. We need to be having our back straight and stuff like that. We don't want to um, have improper form, and we shouldn't have any pain while doing this either. Our second test is going to be the hurdle test. Now, for this test, we didn't have any hurdle to go over, but we still went on with the motions. We're just going to imagine that there is a hurdle and we are going over that hurdle. So basically, hips, knees, and ankles need to remain aligned in the sagittal plane. And then minimal to no movement is noted in the lumbar spine. Okay. And then dowel and hurdle remain parallel. So our dowel is going to be that stick we have on our, resting on our neck, or behind us, I mean. However, and then we don't have the hurdle, but again, it would be parallel. So all this, we want to make sure that our back is straight and we're going fluidly like with the movements. We don't want to be wobbly. We want to make sure we have good balance. We don't want to be uh, leaning to one side while we're going up with one leg, to make sure we get clearance. Uh, so like I said, if a line is lost in the hips or ankles, it doesn't count. Uh, we need to know any movement in the lumbar spine, and then contact between the foot and hurdle. If it does happen, it doesn't count. Our next exercise is going to be the inline lunge. So our dowel needs to uh, remain having contact with us, and it's going to be vertical behind us. So while we're doing the actual movement, there has to be zero torso movement, and then the dowel and feet remain in the sagittal plane. And then if again, we don't have the board for our example here, but in the case of the board being there, we need to make sure that both our knees, while we're doing the lunges, touches the board from behind the heel and front foot. So from there, we just want to make sure that there's no loss of balance or anything like that. We don't want to make sure that anyone is struggling. If there's pain again, it's not right form, or the athlete probably can't do it. Next assessment is going to be shoulder mobility. While we're doing this, we're going to be measuring the distance between our fists. So when we do this, we want to make sure that our thumbs are tucked in. Then you make a fist. But besides that, the fists are going to be within the one hand length. And that's pretty much it, really. So while we're doing this, we just want to make sure that whichever hand is going to be on top, is going to be up at our thoracic area. So we're not, extending or anything. We're just placing it there. It's the bottom arm that's going to be doing everything. So we're going to be reaching with that one as high as we can without any pain or anything like that. If we feel pain, we're not doing it right. So yeah, we would be measuring that. In this case, no one measured me because I was doing it alone. However, someone would be there to measure it for the actual assessment. Okay, our next assessment is the active straight leg raise assessment. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't get this recorded because I'm doing this solo. So I did pull a clip, but I'm going to go ahead and describe it. Basically, what the test is for is to test the ability to disassociate the lower extremity while maintaining stability in the torso. So the active straight leg test will assess active hamstring and gastrosoleus flexibility while maintaining the stability of the pelvis and active extension of the opposite leg. Okay, so the ability to perform the active straight leg test requires a functional hamstring flexibility, which is the flexibility that is available during training and competition. This is different from passive flexibility, which is more commonly assessed than anything else. So as you can see here in the video, we have him here testing, and what we do make note of is that there's a vertical line of the malleus. All right, we see it, and it's going to reside between the mid thigh And that's really like the most important thing, really. We want to make sure, like, again, like no one is struggling with this. You know, the athlete has a chance of receiving a score of 0 if there's a pain associated with anything. And that goes for all these tests, not just this one, but it's just something that I should have mentioned earlier, so I'm mentioning it now. All right, next assessment is going to be the trunk stability push-up assessment. So the whole point of this is to test ability and test ability to stabilize the spine in the anterior and posterior plane during a closed chain upper body movement. All right, it assesses trunk stability in the sagittal plane while a symmetrical upper extremity motion is performed. Now, the ability to perform the trunk stability push-up assessment requires symmetric trunk stability, and that's going to be in the sagittal plane during a symmetric upper extremity movement. Okay, so while they're performing this test, what we want to make sure is as the body lifts, it's going to lift in one unit with no lag of the spine. It needs to come up in one fluid motion. And as you can see here in the video, it's coming up in one nice fluid motion. We don't want the hips to dip or drop. We don't want it to come up like a little wave or anything like that, because if you do that, it's going to result in a test score of most likely a 0. Okay? So when the men perform repetition of this, the thumbs need to be aligned with the top of the head or at their temples. When women perform it, the thumbs need to be more aligned with the chin. So it's going to be just a little bit lower. Okay? That's going to be the main thing to take away from this. Again, we don't want to make sure that that it's aligned in the wrong positions or anything like that at all. Because if it does, then it's not being done properly. Okay? Okay, so our last assessment is the rotary stability assessment. Now this test is a complex movement requiring proper neuromuscular coordination and energy transfer from one segment of the body to another. Okay, so the rotary stability test assesses multi-plane trunk stability during a combined upper and lower extremity motion. As you can see here in the video, I'm trying to attempt to do it. I don't do very good, so I'd most likely get a failing score in this. But the whole point of this is pretty much balance, really. We need to make sure that you're stable while doing this. Okay, so the ability to perform this rotary stability test requires asymmetric trunk stability in both sagittal and transverse planes during an asymmetric upper and lower extremity movement, which is what we're doing, at least what we're trying to do. Now, as we're doing it, we want to make sure that there is correct excuse me, the repetition must be unilateral, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. Um, I kind of do one, but I can't really get it here. So, like I said, it would result in a score of most likely a 0 or maybe less than that. But we basically we don't want any movements that are not unilateral. Pretty much, we want them to make sure that they're going in one fluid direction and that they're staying in that direction. Okay, so here we're seeing the functional movement screening scoring sheet. So we have each category here being represented, and here we can make notes of everything. We can say where the athlete fell, what score they got. You know, it goes from 0, 1, 2, and 3. 3 being good, 0 being a failing rate. And we're going to finish off with our references, which all came from the ACSM guidelines for exercise testing and prescription.